Lost Art with Andrew Cox, retired Master Gunnery Sergeant. thelostart.podbean.com. Get some merchandise and help support the podcast and getting our veteran voices out for all to hear. Now on all major podcast platforms. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Be a guest, tell your veteran story, discuss your veteran business or organization. Email The Lost Art with Andrew Cox at gmail.com. Andrew Cox, a Till Valhalla Project Ambassador. See the project story at tillvalhallaproject.com. Thanks for tuning in. Please enjoy the podcast that's giving a voice to our veterans. The Lost Art with Andrew Cox.
Today's episode is brought to you by TrumpShirt.com. TrumpShirt.com is a veteran-owned business where 100% of the proceeds goes to disabled veterans and veteran organizations. Support your veterans by purchasing a shirt at TrumpShirt.com. Use the promo code TLA and get free shipping. That's TrumpShirt.com, promo code TLA.
Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Lost Art Podcast. That podcast is giving a voice to our veterans. I'm your host, Andrew Cox, and today we'll be having a My Veteran Story. But before we get into that, are you enjoying the episodes? And be sure to go check us out on our website. That's thelostart.podbean.com. Go check it out, see what we got going on. There is a merchandise tab. Click on that merchandise tab, go in there and get you a cool hat, shirt, something like that. Help and support us in getting our veteran voices out for all to hear. And also, I want to give a shout out to the Till Valhalla Project for allowing me to be an ambassador for them. That's a great organization. They're doing great things across the nation. So I encourage you to go check out their website. That's tillvalhallaproject.com.
All right. So really the thing I wanted to talk about, son Jacob.
Yeah.
But I did try to answer your questions well.
No, you did fantastic. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah. My son Jacob, I was born in, as I said earlier, 1947. Basically, I grew up in a middle-class environment. My father was a counselor, mostly a stay-at-home man. Northern New Jersey, back to the 50s, graduated in 65. So I was basically a middle-class kid. My wife is basically a middle-class. And fortunate enough, after being an officer 6 years and getting out, I worked with Southwestern Telephone, mostly in technical areas of one type or another, started with the engineering department. And I did well there, well enough, and basically provided a middle-class environment for my two kids, similar to what my wife and I grew up in. So both kids had that advantage. The oldest one, it was named after me, and my father and my grandfather. And he was born about a little over a year after being married. The younger one, he came about 8 years after the older one. So they were kind of separated in age. But they both had the advantage, I think, of growing up in a middle-class environment and in some pretty good public schools mostly in western St. Louis County, Parkway South Parkway School District. They had Parkway South High School, Parkway High School, a whole bunch of different places. But it was a pretty good school district, and they had that benefit. When the younger one graduated in 1997, Jacob, well, he was named after mostly, not exactly, but mostly after my wife's father, Jacob Rudolph. So Jacob graduated from high school. He went to Truman State, which is located in north central Missouri, about 20 miles south of Iowa, roughly north of the state capital, Jefferson City, kind of in the center of the state. Okay. That is a very rural town, but it was a good school. And he graduated in August 2001 with a bachelor's in communication, which meant he could do PR work, public affairs. He could do writing, advertising. I guess he wasn't a journalist per se, could do radio, Louis, where um, his older brother Court was living, and he went to the University of Missouri, St. Louis branch, and he studied political science. He's going to get a degree in that, and he was thinking of doing political work. I think he was motivated by what he saw in the West Wing TV show. But it would have been built on top of education. Almost completed that degree, and then in 24 November, 25 November 2002, he decided to enlist in the Army, and didn't need their college program per se to get a college degree, because he already had that. But he enlisted in the Army. They put him in as an E4, and he volunteered for the Army. He volunteered for the infantry. Volunteered to be a paratrooper. All this in the time of war.
Right.
So, he wasn't the only one that did that, but not a whole big slice of the population in the United States. And he told his mother and I he wanted to do something he could think of people, and just like a supervisor. A bunch of people at a bank or something. They want to do something meaningful. I had encouraged him, and also his older brother when he went to school, to do ROTC. They were polite enough to list them and then ignore me after that. So, although he had some thought of maybe he'd go to OCS. Anyhow, he went in the Army, and following it was the late entry program, and he went in early March of 2003.
Okay.
And then he had some physical issues that took a little therapy to take care of, and he moved on into what he calls infantry basic. In reality, it's infantry one unit station training. One station unit training was adopted for branches that had high density MOS. You saw in infantry, you saw field artillery, maybe certain engineer discipline.
Right.
Other branches, probably including medical and musical, sent their people to BCT, and then because they're lower density MOS, and then they would send them to AIT. You went to some musical school, and joint school.
In Virginia Beach is where it's at.
Yeah, in joint school.
That's great.
So that BCT is real supportive of the concept. So infantry doesn't go to basic and then AIT, so they think of it as basic. We call it basic. Really one station unit training.
Right.
So we went through that. Graduated early August. And that was in the morning on a Friday. And at 1 o'clock that they were bussed over across post, because this was all at Fort Benning. I'll use the old name because that historically is actually Benning. And so they go across post from what they call Sand Hill, which is most in BCT that they did have. Kentucky. And airborne school was on main post at Fort Benning. And then once you got over there, that later on after that process through, then he was kind of like free for the weekend.
Right.
And he started. And we drove home, and I forget where I went. What happened is I had the opportunity to drive back about 2.5 weeks later, so I got there Tuesday. So could jump. You got a ground week, a tower week, and you can jump.
Right.
and they usually do the jumps, one on Monday, two on Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
So I got there Tuesday evening, and I linked up with him, and then I went and watched the jump. And he actually hurt it on the ankle. I think it was the right. Might have been the left. It was like the left hand. He hurt it in power. But there were a bunch of medics in the class that picked it up for him and went to school. And then he ran down to that's part of what they do. They run from the guard area to the airfield on Monday, and then he jumped. Then he jumped Tuesday, and he twisted the same ankle but the opposite direction.
Oof.
So and then he did a jump after that, and for Tuesday night they were working on his ankle, and then they ran to the airfield Wednesday morning on that. Did first jump. No, I don't know where he was in the sky. What I remember is he was coming from over there back towards the Sunday area. Exactly which one of them he was when he was dangling on first. I think I know.
Yeah. You just kind of picked one and said, "Ah, that's him."
Well, eventually I saw him anyway. If you recall that. I think he called Herold Fleischer. He blew my cover. There were about 40 in his class that went there at one school together. So
wow.
There was a whole platoon out of this country had the airborne option all the way through. So there was about 40 that knew each other. So he gets there, and I'm looking at his foot, and it was twice as wide as the other one.
Mm-hmm.
But he's getting by. He's going to finish this thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, but it is also their launch time, so you need to go over there and get.
Yeah.
And one of his classmates knew who I was. They all knew. So that was their graduation in uniforms. They all knew who I was. His cover was he was trying never to say during basic who his father was. He did report him so they could send me an invitation appropriately. So he goes away, and one of his classmates comes up to me and said, "Jacob is really strong." Okay, thank you very much. And then when Jacob came back with another one of his classmates, Jacob, these are the guys who had seen his foot with the boot off.
Yeah.
So they really knew what he was looking. And anyhow, they get their bodies back on whatever the transportation was, and they take them back to the airfield, and then they make their fifth and final jump. And now he comes in from the other direction.
Okay.
And he's holding his hand up like this. And I'm thinking he's waving. No, he's not waving. 5. He's finished his fifth jump, and he's made the blaster form, and he's got to carry his gear off the LV.
Yeah.
You do that 5, jump out of a plane 5 times and carry your equipment off.
Right.
And so that's what it meant. It wasn't high. It was fifth jump. So with that leg. And I went to graduation the next morning, and I'm talking to I think an airborne sergeant. And well, how bad was it? And said, well, we did see that he was limping. And we did check him. Did look at him. Yeah, I kicked his foot. He didn't fall down on the ground. So we let him stay. My wife thought that was mean, vicious, and not appropriate. I said, no. What they were trying to find out is how badly he was hurt. He was badly enough hurt that their job was yank him against his will, even out of training.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yeah.
What they were trying to determine was how bad it was. And the fact that he didn't collapse after the kick, he just yanked him. They let him stay in, which is what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
So he had the incident demonstrated to me that he had a lot of willpower, and desire to succeed,
Mm-hmm.
and that he would hang in there tough.
Right.
And from that point on, I never worried about whether or not he would hold up on the battle. I believe that whatever he faced during his time in the Army, he would be good.
Right.
He'd be good to go. Because he had decided his mission was to finish his desire to become a paratrooper. And he put up with the pain and he saw it through it. Yeah. He wasn't going to quit. He wasn't going to fold under pressure. And you don't want to see a soldier fold under pressure on the battle. Stay in the fight. You want to have him keep operating his weapon and stuff like that. And so to me, even though it was not so nice that he was hurt,
Mm-hmm.
it was a demonstration he had the willpower to persevere
Mm-hmm.
under bad circumstances, and he had that going forward. He possessed that going forward.
Right.
So his soldierization and taking his whatever attitudes and whatnot he came in, they heightened all the positive ones that would help him go forward. So after that, the Sergeant Airborne let him fall out of ranks. They didn't have to run back to the barracks. So they ran out from the barracks to the graduation.
Oh, wow.
All right. And he walked back with a couple of Sergeant Airborne that kind of admitting their work too.
Yeah.
And they processed Sergeant Airborne. We processed him as quickly as we can. He needs to go to the hospital. I said, okay. And then I took him up to the Martin Army Hospital. And the doctor that looked at him said, well, this is just a bad brain. They just have a brain. They did a bad brain, but it needs to have a brain problem. All that. And I'm 100% sure that I haven't been there. They would hospitalize.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. He's still a young soldier, right?
Yeah.
And this is a retired Army colonel doctor who's on contract now, working with the hospital. And he's looking at the kid. Yeah, the best way to keep him off his feet would be if I hospitalized that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But then he realized who I was,
Mm-hmm.
I identified who I was, and I was, when you take him to the Air Force, cool, because that's where he's going to go. I said, absolutely, I'll take, so they can look at him some more.
Yeah.
So that's the only reason he didn't get hospitalized, because I was there and the doctor trusted me to make sure that he went to the next hospital.
Right.
At Scott Air Force Base. And so then we started on our trek towards St. Louis. He was on hometown recruiting, and then he had some leave. And it took him to buy a car, which is very interesting exercise. When you're young like that, there's a whole bunch of things you've never done in your life. Like live alone, take care of yourself, get a first apartment, get a first car, get married. You've never done that before. So there's a whole bunch of life events that you go through. You got kids?
I have two, yeah.
Yeah, well, you'll go through some more. They'll graduate from high school and they'll either go to work or go to college or go on course or something like that. And you don't realize when you're a young parent, but you're going to go through a bunch of firsts. And then the other thing you're going to find out as you go along, you're going to worry about different things.
Mm-hmm.
You never stop worrying.
Mm-hmm.
You might worry about different things, but you never stop worrying. Anyhow, I left him in St. Louis with his brother, and he tried to help him with the hometown recruiting thing. And we got the car in St. Louis, in San Antonio. And that was a long rest story. But we got that car, took him back to St. Louis, shipped his car from St. Louis to Hawaii, because he was in the war in Hawaii. And then he went to Hawaii, and he was assigned to the 2nd Battalion, 5th Infantry, then part of 3rd Brigade, Bronco, of the 25th Infantry Division of Schofield Barracks. Schofield Barracks is kind of like in the middle of Oahu Island.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the Marines are on a little peninsula on the east side, across across a mountain range from Honolulu.
Right.
And so that's where the Marines are. But the Army is in the middle of the island, mountain range that runs basically southeast and northwest on the east side of the island, mountain range that runs more or less south on the west side of the island. The island is kind of tropical shape. And Honolulu and Pearl Harbor on the south side, lowland. And then you have the area they call North Shore that's on the north side between the two mountains. So there's like a path, not a very high pass. There's like a path that goes over the middle of the island. And that's where Schofield Barracks is. Okay. It's at the peak of the pass, so it's the reservation. Extends east and west. It's military reservation, not real big, but it can support a lot of folks. But it's very old.
Yeah.
Very, very old. It goes back to like shortly after it became territory in the United States.
Oh, wow.
And so that garrison is really old. So he was assigned to that, and their initial workup when he got there was, okay, we're going to go, the 2nd Brigade was going to go to Iraq, like spring 2004. Okay. And then the 3rd Brigade was going to go to Afghanistan summer, August of like 2004. Okay. Or 2nd Brigade went to Iraq. They were supposed to go to either Fort Irwin. I think it was Fort Irwin. They were going to go to the National Training Center. And then they came back to ship 3rd Brigade to the National. So that was going to be their final training. Well, 2003. By that time, the late 2003, early 2004. By that time, they found out that they were really had stepped in the ground material in Iraq really bad. And they did all sorts of things like extend furs and whatnot. And in the 2nd Brigade case, they were told that you're going to arrive like December or January. Okay.
Yeah.
So their tour to Irwin was canceled. And I think they were thinking to the Big Island, which is they had made a large new area on the Big Island, Hawaii. So they went to Hawaii before turned around. 3rd Brigade said, "You're going to Afghanistan like April."
Oh, wow.
So their tour to Fort Irwin got. 2nd of the 5th went up to the Big Island. They did their exercise there. I'm not familiar with every aspect of the island. I know that the military reservation, like in high areas of the island, and the upper areas, quite full at certain times. So they did their final training there, and they started. 3rd Brigade started moving. 2nd of the 5th, for some reason, was the last agreement. And he was in Charlie Company, 2nd and 5th. So it was the last of the battalion, the last of the brigade. And they went by contracted civilian jet. And this I did not understand. The shortest way to get from Hawaii to Afghanistan was to fly east. So the first thing they did is they flew to Indianapolis, Indiana.
What?
Then they flew to like Ireland or something, and then Turkey. They finally flew into one of the stands north of Afghanistan.
Wow.
They flew like 3/4 of the way around the world to get there. And I'm going like, really? What was wrong with the status? You know, going over Indonesia, India, whatever, Pakistan. And wouldn't that have been shorter?
Yeah.
Nope. Everybody went the other way from Hawaii. And when they got to the whatever stand it was to the north, they changed over to C-130. His comment later on, I guess Britain maybe ordered. But they did have the ability to call something. It was the first time you ever landed in an Air Force aircraft flying into Afghanistan.
That's pretty good.
First time you ever did that. Initially, they were moved into an area called Ras, which is kind of mid-center on the east side of Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm.
There's a city there that's pretty large, and then that's also a province. And there had been a U.S. unit there for a while that they replaced, and they were, from a mission prep viewpoint, they were prepped on that because that's what we took. They were there about 60 days, and then they got picked up and moved south, southern Afghanistan. They didn't go to Kandahar per se, which is a major city in the south. Kandahar. They went to Oregon province, which got two different provinces. One starts with a Union, one starts with why it's two different ways. But Oregon province or Yukon. And when you look at map at that time, you're looking at threat things. Threat things were both basically along the Pakistani border. Mm-hmm. And a little piece of Afghanistan that goes off the northeast and south of Iraq. That was known to be right. And then there was some stuff to the south of Kandahar.
Right.
And then kind of in the center, there was this red spot. That was Oregon province. It was not too swift. So anyhow, his battalion was moved to Oregon province. Karen Point, I think, is the province capital. And they were moved to a place that became called Camp Ripley. Mm. And Camp Ripley was named after Colonel Ripley of the Marine Corps. You must know who Colonel Ripley is.
I have heard of Colonel Ripley, yes.
He's a VMI graduate, early 60s. Mm-hmm. Ripley at the bridge. Mm-hmm. So anyhow, the Marines there named it there. Was at that time, there was a Marine Colonel with an MEU, Marine Expeditionary Unit, and it was battalion side. Get what they call the battalion side point. Anyhow, so this colonel was there with a Marine infantry battalion, probably maybe some artillery, and he had either helicopter, probably had helicopters. He might have had tilt rotor, I'm not sure. He probably had helicopters that supported on that. That's normally what the battalion side MEU would consist of. Right. So basically, the second and the 50th came the second and the battalion in that organization. And they went to various places. And the Marines were very proud of how they managed to build everybody, all the way up to the colonel. I saw this actually in a U.S. newspaper, like Star Magazine or something, or Parade Magazine. Short article. Oh yeah, we're here doing this stuff, and we're in all these little tents here, all the way down. For me, all the way down. Everybody's looking. Looking at that, I'm going, well, you missed the point. The point is you should be making the impression the Americans are here to stay. Mm-hmm. You are making the impression that you're temporary and transient and going to bug out. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, they finished their however long they're supposed to be there. Normally the floats are like 7 months from the time they leave, wherever they start to the time they return. So at some point they pulled this. They were going to pull them out, and they pulled them out. The second battalion, the infantry took over the mission, but now it became Colonel Sellers. Technically, this Marine Corps in this Providence and the second and best infantry were underneath 3rd Brigade of the 25th. I'm trying to remember his name. I met him more brigade command. Anyhow, once the Marines were gone, the Army was on their own. So 2 battalions and 1 battalion. And Colonel Sellers said that one company east to establish a combat outpost, and I think it was Alpha. I could look it up, but Alpha Company east, and he sent Charlie Company in the west. And they place they went into they set up a combat outpost, and I forget the name of it. It escaped it to the west, and then he kept one company, I think it was Bravo, within that camp airport. And they also started to build crude cabin, hooches, whatever you call it, out of wood.
Yeah.
All right. And so they began to send the message that they were going to stay. And I actually reviewed my opinion of him and what he did, the 3rd Brigade did, by showing more permanent. I said, you did the right thing. He understood. The Marines didn't have the right calibration. Calibration. Make a statement that we're here to stay and pretty good. And that did not happen. Too fixated on being mean, and expeditionary. We're here for a while, and the Marine Corps doing a disadvantage. And the Army is about to do. And we need to be there to finish the job. So that was a disposition of his battalion. The first day that they went into their combat outpost in the west. It's semi-finished. So National Geographic show based on that point. Yeah, the first day they went into their, they had contact. And I was told later by several people that Jacob was on guard in a watchtower over the place, although he was a bomb. And when they got hit, the enemy was using tracer ammunition to get all over the place. Got hit. Immediately he returned fire. No ducking, no nothing. He was on guard. It was his job to shoot. As soon as they started shooting at Cobra, that was the name. That was Cobra. Combat outpost Cobra. And the one to the east was called Anaconda. That's why it was Anaconda. All right, it's coming back to me now.
Yeah.
So he returned fire, and he kept shooting, and he was the only one shooting because he was the only one in position, given where the fire was coming in that could. And then somebody got a vehicle with a Mark 19 grenade launcher in operation. So then there were 2 of them. So he stayed on the machine gun until the normal machine gun team. He was in the quick reaction for 2nd squad, so he rallied at that point, the 2nd squad. And they left the inside of the Cobra to circle around the Cobra to the side that was closest to where the enemy was shooting. And the team leader told me this information. They got on that side, they're taking cover of the waiting, and then Geo goes over to get information, instructions from the squad. And I may remember his name too if I think about it. And it goes over there to get instructions. The other team leader's there. And the squad leader says, we're going to attack up the hill. This is the middle of the night in the dark. We're going to attack uphill against an active enemy whose exact size is not really known. And Gio goes like, what? You want us to do what? We're going to attack up this hill. And then Gio said his self-discipline kicked in. He said, yes, Sergeant. He understood the order, yes, Sergeant. But he was initially taken back a little bit by, we're going to charge up the hill in the middle of the night. just the 8 or 9 of them in the second squad.
Right.
So he goes back to his fire team, got 3 people there. I think they have written down who the other people were. And there's 3 of them, and so he explains what they're going to do. Now, he's calm to this right now because he's, overcome his emotion, but he's explaining it to the 3 of them. 2 of them are going, we're going to do what? And he said Jacob's reaction, the only thing that Jacob said was, which do? And then he got ready to go. And it had like a stunning calming effect on Gio.
Mm-hmm.
That's the look.
Mm-hmm.
I just need to know what hill. Then they attacked, and they took the hilltop. And when they got up there, they actually found abandoned RPG rounds, and at least 2, I'm going to say AK-47.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking about that. Okay, those guys totally panicked. They saw that squad coming up the hill, shooting, and they were still getting fire support from the base, the Cobra. They go like, "Oh shit, we got to get out of here."
Yeah.
So they took the RPG launcher, but they didn't stop to pick up their rifles. I don't know whether they were 2 or 4 or whatever they were, but they didn't take the spare ammo. They just ran.
Mm-hmm.
They were not going to stay there once they saw second squad coming up. So we can be proud of the infantrymen that we created at Fort Benning, not just Jacob, but all of them.
Mm-hmm.
That when faced with that problem, the reaction was, okay, we're going to have to counter attack. We got to immediately return fire, which is what Jacob did.
Mm-hmm.
And he was, some of his friends said, that's really brave because he was making stuff apart. They had the normal 1 out of 6 rounds or identifying where you are. And wow, he did that. He covered us while we all scrambled to get on it. And then he went on with counterattack. But the reaction of the whole platoon at that instant was so spot on, so correct. He was very quality soldiers that had been recruited and through their own self-discipline succeeded.
Yeah.
They were real professionals. So that was their first night at Cobra.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a nice welcome right there.
Yeah. So they participated in the first presidential election in Afghanistan. And that was part of why they were in that province. They were in that province to help the local officials, mostly the Afghan militia force, ANF, to help secure that the election could happen in that province. And they did do the election in that province. And he wrote a letter about how they did that in the first election ever. And we, I don't remember his name, probably come back. The brigade commander, when my wife and I met with him in Hawaii, he gave us several copies of the ballot. And Ford has it. My older son has one that I have. I have one framed in our house displayed. The one in our house is displayed against a map, the U.S. like joint operations map, and which includes where he served. Anyhow, that was a big accomplishment. Then his platoon was rotated down to Herold to support special forces team that was operating. Herold is a district of Providence, and it is where Mullah Omar came from. It was the old family stomping ground for leader of the Taliban. It was not exactly word away place. And they operated out of there. They did various things. Anyhow, they did it. He went on a civil action patrol. It was a mix of Afghan National Army, their advisors, and CA type people. And people from second platoon were there for security. So there were like 7 vehicles, and the last 3 belonged to the second platoon. And by that time, he switched from being a grenadier in second squad assistant gun. And in that movement, typically what they did is the gunner took the weapon on one vehicle, assistant gunner would take an automatic weapon on the second. The assistant gunner was capable of firing gun that the gunner could.
Right.
And so that normally was the thing. So he was in that. They went out and they did the mission. They came back. They crossed Talabran Bridge. That was the actual name of it. Shortly after they crossed it, there was an IED that was command hit. Basically, it instantly killed the driver and the driver. Dale, the sergeant. At the time, he was actually a specialist, but he was qualified to be promoted to sergeant, but he ruled in place. So he was posthumously promoted to sergeant later.
Right.
He was immediately promoted to corporal, so to speak. So the two of them basically killed. The truck commander was an E5 by the name of Parnello, and he was still conscious when they got the vehicle. Was pretty screwed up. It was an up armored M114 Humvee, and it had very low mileage on it. The thinking is that the Taliban were trying to find out how hard it was. Right. So anyhow, when they got to the vehicle, they pulled them all out. Jacob and Bella was still conscious. I like this story because what he asked was, "What about my guy?"
Yeah.
Not what, not anything about himself. It was, "What about my guy?" I
Right.
wanted to know about that. You can reinforce your junior leaders and senior leaders to care about their troops, that want to take care of them and whatnot. But that's an innate quality of the person. You can reinforce it, but I don't think you can introduce it to a person. Help build on the whole thing.
Right.
And the success of the Army was they did that. He wanted to know about it. And there was an article, I forget where, about him waking up in a hospital. And the first thing he asked was, "What about my soul?"
Mm-hmm.
Same thing he was asking before he passed out. What about my soul? We've met Parnell in Hawaii. Not to do it. People weren't sure how we would take it that he was. We met him in front of second platoon. I gave him a hug, and I said, "The only way this could be worse is if you can sit."
That's, in my opinion, true leadership there. Absolutely true leadership.
So, we were invited to the change of command ceremony of the Bobcat Battalion, which happened after the return from Afghanistan. And Colonel Sellers had the 4 rifles with helmets for the 4 soldiers he lost. He lost Jacob and Dale that day. About a month before, he lost 2 others, the staff sergeant, Tom, and Hal Fernandez, who was in Jacob's friend. And as a result of that, we got to meet the brigade commander, specifically requested that. They didn't feel the colonel should be in his area without making contact with him. And then we spent time with Colonel Sellers as well. And he had sheer picture and stuff like that. And then spent time with the company commander, Captain Lookout, and the platoon leader, and the platoon sergeant. And Jacob actually would have known three of them. So there was another one that was wounded at the time that I was in the command. And then we met the whole second team. And we went to dinner did a barbecue. So we met the judge.
Right.
And that's that. I don't know what they call themselves today, but today they call it, back in 2004, they were themselves closed. The E4s and below. One of them said, yeah, we were late here to the barbecue because we didn't have a staff sergeant to push us along. We know that's a problem that we have. And I go, okay. At least they recognize that there's some value in their junior leader, junior NCOs. But anyhow, it was obvious that Jacob was respected and had a lot of compassion for people. He was appreciated on both accounts by a wide spectrum. I don't believe the brigade commander probably knew who he was because he had 3 infantry battalions, artillery, and other troops, and he also had 4 nationals working with him and whatnot. Too big of a span of control for him to know everybody in the brigade. The battalion commander and assistant knew everybody, and I could believe that a little bit more. Because he got a smaller band, and they were groups and clusters that he visited, and also trained with and watched them training. That was more believable. Everybody else would, they worked with him, so they knew. So he was well respected. So when you look at it that way, he was a success.
Absolutely.
And many years later, Captain Bookout became Colonel Bookout, backed up Hawaii, and he became commander of the 3rd Brigade.
Wow.
Now, the 2nd and the 5th ceased to exist in 2000, part of an Army-wide reorganization, emphasis on reconnaissance security units, and it changed from 3 infantry battalions in the brigade to 2+1 reconnaissance squadron unit, and that was Army-wide. It was a major mistake, which 15 years later they started undoing by adding another infantry battalion back to a lot of the brigade, or maneuver battalion back to a lot of the brigade. So anyhow, he had some buildings that had to be renovated in his brigade area, and as they finished getting renovated, he decided to name them. And one of the buildings that he picked out, he decided to name it.
Very nice.
So we went to the dedication of that building. Hawaii and Schofield Barracks, most of the buildings are organized by A, B, C. And this one was B. There's several different. I actually go to the A, B. This is B. There's a road that comes off the main highway that runs north and south to the post. It's an entrance, and right at the entrance there's a small building, and that's like the post museum.
Right.
I don't know if you've ever been to.
I have not. No.
Yeah, that's the post museum. There's a big building to the left. Well, as you're coming in to the right of the library, to the north side of the library, and it's a barracks building built in 21, I think it was.
Wow.
DCOD has 4 big barracks type buildings that were all built the same year, and this one was being renovated into a company administrative building. 10 different companies able to be housed, so it would have a delivery room, supply room, arms room, that type of stuff.
Right.
10 in the barracks, and so we went for the dedication, and it was a big deal, not just for us, but for the whole Third Brigade.
Yeah.
They really wanted to get it. A lot of people involved in putting the ceremony together. Learned that, of course, the time we were there, how people involved in getting things done. They had big, I don't know if I got pictures of it, but they had a bronze looking plaque made.
Oh, wow.
And they used a picture that the day before he graduated, what they call it, turning blue day. But they give them their blue cord with the blue background. Thing. Anyhow, they got a picture from that. We gave that to them. They incorporated that into it. And then they would write up on thing that the coordinator was. They did that. And for that, the engineer kept it in the brigade and got that done. Yeah, I personally put it on the wall. It's never coming off.
Yeah.
And then there were people who were working parts of this ceremony that I talked to. So it's quite involved. Put up a couple of tents. Two of the assistant division commanders there.
Wow.
Operations plus communications guy from New Zealand.
Mm.
New Zealand and the division commander had a conflict, so he couldn't be here. So they were there, and then there were some other dignitaries. The building was going to be occupied by pieces of 2 battalions. Those battalions were represented. The little troop unit came from headquarters company 15. And the little guide on with the company commander, they were all happy that they got selected to be in the ceremony. And so first speech was by from the book out. And what Josh said was a lot of things about Jacob, all positive. He said he was always ready to do whatever you had.
Right.
He said he always was reading. If he had nothing to do, he was always reading. Always, which was characteristic of him as well. He read more than anybody he ever knew. He said he didn't read enough.
Wow.
Jacob was always reading. But if you asked him to do something, bang, that became what he did right then. There was no lollygagging around, got on it.
Right.
And always could be counted on, stuff like that. Yeah. So after he got done, I knew that he really had been around. So I understood why he picked him out to have that name placed on it. And then my older son, Courtney, gave a speech, very intellectual. He even quoted some Greeks. And then my wife gave a speech, and I finished with Josh and I took turns telling the headquarters company make sure that they stood not at detention, not at parade rest, but at ease. All right?
Yeah.
Because we knew it was hot and it was long. And let me turn while I was talking and look at them a little bit, trying to fidget. I appreciated what they were doing, but at the same token, I knew how long I talked.
Right.
And how long everybody else had already talked. And so therefore, you needed not to inflict pain on them. But talked about how the infantry, the grunts, they only have one measure. This was true back when I was only have one measure. Are you there when the shooting starts? You're there when the shooting starts. You're my military brother. If you're not, you're kind of at best baggage. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I said, they don't really care how tall you are, how short you are, how fat you are, how thin you are. They don't care whether you're black, brown, white. They really don't really care about your religion.
Mm-hmm.
What they really care about is when the shooting starts, are you there?
Right.
That's the measure in the group. That's how the group measure each other. And they measure their leaders by that. Are their leaders on top of it when the shooting starts?
Mm-hmm.
Is my medic ready to go? Is my
Right.
automatic rifleman shooting back? My grenadier picking on the target? Are you there when you shoot? Whatever your job happens to be,
Mm-hmm.
are you there when you shoot? And then I laid the incident. The attack on Cobra was one. Also, there was an incident during the run-up to the election. Jacob was said by Finley to be one of about 10, 11 guys that he could count on invariably. If he turned on his shoulder and saw one of these guys behind him, he knew that whatever he said next, they were going to do. Jacob was one of those. They hit the problem one day unasked the vehicle, looked over his left shoulder, right shoulder, saw Jacob and another dependable guy that charged him. Immediately, they all moved right down the road, charging against a favorite Taliban pickup truck. I think they were charging down, and they believe they probably detonated an IED under their lead vehicle, although nobody heard that thing. So I reviewed those incidents, and so I closed off by, I think I made reference to this. Jacob was loved and respected by his military brothers for his bravery and compassion. Greater success cannot be had. Loved by his father, Herold Fleischer. And then I closed the speech by saying, Jacob was and always will be a child of God. A man, an American soldier, and a grunt. Dedication to the building was just reinforcement of what I had on this
Absolutely.
wristband for a long time.
Right.
Oh. But a lot of the Joes he worked with were pretty much dependable people that you could count on.
Right.
And that each other could count on. And that's not something that you easily get. The volunteer army self-select those guys. And then if they're weak, they don't finish infantry basic, and they never get the unit. But they were professionals. But when I talked to them in Hawaii in 2005, they were all the way down to the PFC. They were professionals. If we're looking for hope for the country, that crowd is dead.
Absolutely.
That crowd is dead. Very good people. Of course, well, we didn't have Afghanistan most frequently. Super tragic. I remember them talking about how they really wanted to see the girls go to school and get involved. And so they were carrying their macron value of quality, of opportunity at least, with them. And so that's one of the things that they wanted to help probe why they were there. They wanted to see the girls go to school. And that was something that was happening across all of Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm.
The women were allowed out. what we have done now is ban the same regime that was the precedent before we entered. So I agree with President Bush and Secretary Connolly. I don't solve the problem. It's creating just peaceful society there. It's going to be a breeding ground for more of this stuff.
Very true.
We made a lot of mistakes in Afghanistan. We got better at it, but in that same as Vietnam, we got better at it in Vietnam too, as long as we were there.
Right.
But we made a lot of mistakes. But that's not just Vietnam and Afghanistan. If you look at the Civil War, Lincoln struggled for a long time to find people who could lead the Union Army.
Right.
Kept at it. Eventually, he found Grant. Grant had good guys that he could pick on. Sherman, Sheridan, and Grant did what Lincoln needed to have done. He won the war. But it took a long time for Lincoln to get there. Bush was out of time. By the time he figured out that he needed to reapproach Afghanistan second term.
Right.
Third party outsourcing to weak allies does not get the job done. Does not get the job done. The Dutch went into Terranquoit in Yurgaunt province after the second or fifth month there. They didn't get replaced by Americans. Down the road, the Dutch moved in. Well, they were not very impressed. We're peacekeepers, not fighters. And Germans, I think, moved in another area and had the same mindset. The British had an area in Helmand province, and this I learned from a young Marine. And you should be proud of your young Marine life. Good in your Army. Not better, but anyhow, in Helmand province, and they forted up in one of the district headquarters. And this Marine unit, and I think it was the first and sixth, arrived. And their job was take over. Well, they got there, and the next day they went out of the wire. So if you go out there, you're going to get attacked. Bad guys are out. We're Marines. We're here to kill them.
Yeah.
They're either our friends or we're here to kill them. There's no in between.
Yeah.
And so, this young Marine, PFC, is telling me a story how his battalion got outside the wire and they advanced 600 meters. They kept going and they kept going and they kept going. At the end of their tour, civilian people and traffic and commerce was moving up and down the road. Right? The bad guys had either been killed or driven deep out of cover, and people could have a life.
Yeah.
And he could see this. And, okay, this is the PFC, and he could even see the value that his unit did. Well, then they left, and they came back, and the Marines said, well, screw you. You've been home, 30 days, it's time, whatever it was. I don't know whether it was 7 months, 13 months, whatever, but they went back to the same place and took it over again, only they were taking it from another American unit, so it wasn't fucked up. And then they were working there, but he got hurt. He was thinking the same time. He was never there. That young man knew what he and his unit did and the value that they provided to those people. We pissed it away.
Yeah.
And I really didn't want Jacob's generation to go through what we in the Vietnam generation.
Right.
There's all sorts of theories about whether we won or lost before. Finally left. Whether we were winning or losing at the time we left, it doesn't matter. We left.
Right.
We killed a lot of DC and NBA and did a lot of good work. South Vietnamese were not deserved to live under the child of the given her on the NBA. Some degree, the North Vietnamese kindness has softened the Chinese kindness. So they're still communists. But unfortunately, when it comes to Afghanistan veterans are the same place that the Marines, all the veterans should be in.
Right.
Did our job, got a certain level of results, and we just up and quit. Struggling to lack of resolve, political resolve. Iraq is almost as bad, except the Iraqis realized they were in shit city. ISIS came at it, so they were a little bit more amenable to working with it. It's not quite so bad for the Iraqi veterans as it was, and it is for veterans. So that's the story of Jacob.
Well, when I met you yesterday,
That's a better story than mine. I don't have a building that's over 100 years old named after me. Go feel better.
True.
He impressed this. Military brothers, leaders, very highly. And success.
yes. I was going to say, when I met you yesterday, you asked me about that pin on your shirt. I didn't really know the impact of it. And as I sit here talking to you now, I completely understand the impact of that. And I want to say thank you for sharing that story. That's something that means a lot to me personally. So thank you for coming and doing that, and also sharing your story as well, because your story is important as
well. Well, Jacob's story is more important to me. For that one to be known.
Absolutely.
For that one to be known.
I will say that although he may be gone, speaking his name and remembering he'll always be here through that. And you're allowing that to happen by coming on here and letting people know.
Josh Bookout, he took us through the building after the dedication. And we walked into the building and he said, look at all this content. The engineers in 1920 really put it down. He said, this building may change its function from time to time, be updated and modernized, but it's never going to. And when you look at the buildings of those pods, the engineers built it to last.
Yeah.
So that plaque is going to be on the building. There's a picture on the inside of one of the hallways, big light up, stuff like that. And every company administrative area, because we went into a couple of these, we put an 8x10, at least one, in some cases more, in every administrative area building.
Wow.
So that every company has their own picture. And there's various ones that they use. We gave them a lot of it. And they used a lot of it. So he and his staff did a great job. They really did. And Jane and I in Fort Worth, guest of honor of the brigade at the Saturday dinner. Dedication was on Monday. I just thought we were going to dinner, but we were at the head table, not just with Josh and his wife, Dad, but we were there also with the two deputy commanding generals, both of them. The one that's since gone as far, the other one's museum. Going to have to go back to the museum to see if they like them. But I joked with them. I said, you're in danger of losing your accent. They may not know who you are. Let's go back. In the division in the command sergeant major brigade. So we were at the head table, and I wasn't expecting that. So was a big deal for us to be there. Like I said, I learned about about how many people were actually working to
Right.
make it go, and that was pretty good. Hopefully, going forward, we veterans can support the younger guys who are coming in to carry it forward, and that I think is important. Support them. Just had an email from Military Officers Association or somebody, I don't remember. Oh, we should get 100% VAH, particularly for the lower enlisted guys, which is now part of the bill. And they had a form letter to do, and they added a whole sentence saying it was done to cut it when they did. All right?
Yeah.
You calculate what 100% should be, and then you cut it.
Yeah.
That's not a good way to tell people that they're important.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So now you have a recruiting problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you got to send a good message. The good message is you are important. We figured out your rank that 100% is this, and we're going to give it to you.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah.
That's what we should do, not try to save 5% of it on the budget. And there's a big attempt on this current round to try to help on the military pay, because they realize that inflation has really hurt everybody, but particularly the military. And they're trying to fix that in households to get a big 15% raise. Say the lower floor ranks. And they try to help fix that. There's basically saying in this marketplace, with inflation, we're handicapping ourselves by pay.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got to fix that. And that's one of the things that we have to be supportive of. When I pulled up that letter, and I typed no lowercase, all caps.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it's one letter all the time. So I wanted it to not be quite a thing. It was done to cut it. You calculate what 100% is, and then you tell them they don't really like a bad lecture, they're going to get money. What's wrong?
Mm-hmm.
That's stupid. Stupid when they did it. It's almost amazing that the people are trying to fix it. So I have a bias against the civilian overlord and the personnel organization.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything good come out of that organization. They are the enemy personnel in the armed forces. They're the ones that come up with cut it 5% so we can save some money.
Right.
They and the budgeteers, they come out with the new, back I guess in the 80s, they came out with the new retirement system. After 10, 15 years, this is a disaster. Yeah, but you were told that at the time you did
it. Yeah. Yeah.
You were told that at the time you did it. It would be a disaster. And I've never seen anything good come out of it. Never. When I was the second lieutenant, the guy who was looking out and beating back on that group was Congressman Mendel Rivers, Democrat from South Carolina. I'm not sure where from South Carolina, but I knew that he was effective. There were numerous Navy bases doing various things. Got Fort Jackson, I think the major Air Force base in South Carolina. But he's the guy who, when they were going volunteer army, he was the guy who set up the pay tape, put money into it.
Mm-hmm.
And he was the one who was looking out for the groups, benefits, and everything. And very effective. And he retired Congressman Abrams from Louisiana.
Mm.
Navy suddenly decided they needed a hospital in New Orleans. The Army decided that temporary post, nothing but World War II barracks on it that was used for training infantry for Vietnam. Wow, we needed that as a permanent post. Let's start putting big buildings up on there and make it a permanent post. Hey, that's one way to get the attention to Congress and get some money. Rebuild Fort Polk, and there's an Air Force base. I forget the name of it. I think it's England. There's at least one Air Force base in Louisiana. But they became, those activities became untouchable.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as soon as he became, you know, yeah, whatever we're doing, you know, we're going to keep doing it. We're not going to close for it. We'll find something to do with Fort Polk. We're going to rebuild it. It was funny because they actually published in some Army general publication everything they're doing at Fort Polk and how great it was going to be, and they were building that, they're building commissary, and on and on and on. They're just extolling the virtues of Fort Polk. Problem was too many people moved there. When it was, it's the prototype of Camp Swampy in Beta Bailey.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if people really realize that, but that's the prototype. Camp Swampy. And it was a great environment for training for Vietnam because it was heavily wooded and in some areas lower. It's good for that, but there was some political things that go on with respect to. I'm not sure why Fort Drum was picked, but I know that it was called the 10th Mountain Division. Senator Dole was very powerful congressman.
Mm-hmm.
He served in the 10th Mountain, wounded that young 10th.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, we want to have this other unit. We haven't had the 10th Division on active duty in a long time. We think that's a good name.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, there's some of that stuff going on. I'm sure that maybe should go it that way. The Marine Corps has their protection.
Oh yeah.
He was a pilot. He flew CH-46.
Oh, okay.
Crash, I think they call them or something.
Frogs, yeah.
Yeah. Call them frogs. He flew those for a long time. And then he transitioned to hospital.
Mm.
That was a fun story. He was picked in the CH-46 squad. He was transferred from Camp Reserve, California. He was stationed into the third wing.
Mm-hmm.
He served in the third wing. So he's stationed in the third wing in staff position. I don't even know if it was a billet or that said here, this is your desk, and he was stationed there so that when the battalion opened up, it was plotted for. Plotted for opened up, he'd be there and ready to go. Well, squadron was about to open up, but then they changed the manning plan. No, we're going to make this last season almost immediate. You're not qualified. You're not going to squadron. So-and-so going. Well, what third wing was reminded of by headquarters for that they owned at Washington, D.C. Henderson Hall.
Yeah.
They own it, Henderson Hall, all the way 05 and 06 inch.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody takes those positions unless they're selected there.
Mm-hmm.
So they go like, hey, you screwed up there, man. You can't do that. This guy has got to take the fly. Period.
Yeah.
He selected him, he had that. They go, oh, okay. Thank you for reminding us that we're subordinate. And so what they did is they sent him off to Osprey School.
Yeah.
And he learned how to fly an Osprey.
Wow.
And then the unit that he was selected to go to that was going to convert the Osprey when it came back from the float to the Western Pacific. It actually wound up in Pakistan. So okay. Yes, he's going to that squadron. Yes, it's going to be an Osprey. Yes, he's going to be trained in Osprey. So that we went to the change of command. And the day he took command, he was the only Osprey person, qualified person in the whole squadron.
No kidding.
The whole squadron. And he was also CH-46 qualified, which was good because that's all they had.
Yeah.
But his job, and it was supposed to be 18 months, but his job was to transition it from 46 to Osprey.
Yeah.
He was sending pilots off to school learn how to do Osprey. He was sending mechanics off to school how to do Osprey. Supply guys and ground maintenance guys, but not a problem. But all those guys that had to know how to do the Osprey, sending them off to school. Those guys who weren't going to make the transition, they were out of the unit for whatever reason. He had to bring those in. And so about 18 months later, he finally had all the Ospreys he was supposed to have, turned in all the 46s. And he got basically everybody individually trained in the beginning to do collective training and formation flying at about 18. Well, then it turned out that that squadron wasn't going to deploy on a certain schedule. And they wanted the next commander to do the whole cycle. But if he started immediately at the end of this guy's 18 months, he couldn't do the whole cycle. So they said, you got 4 more months. So he had actually got 22 months of command out of that Osprey experience. He never got to deploy with it. But his job and his mission for that period of time was.
Was that at Miramar?
Yeah.
Or was that up on Pinnacle?
No, Miramar. His mission was not to deploy. His mission was to get rid of the CH-46s out of the unit and create an Osprey. We're going to send you the new airframe. You got to get rid of the old one. Turn them in, and then
and get everybody trained.
Yeah. And he got them up to the point where they could do formation flying together. Whether they were actually deployable at that part, and how much more time they needed, I'm not sure. But he got them to the point where they could actually fly formation together. That was his contribution at that time.
Yeah, I remember when they were switching over to the aircraft.
Yeah.
All that stuff was happening.
It
was a long road from when they first came out with Osprey.
It had a number of problems. They crashed some.
They still have some issues.
It's a very complicated aircraft. He took us on a tour of it, and he pointed out this feature, that feature, the other thing. Most pictures you see, the Osprey's got a fuselage, and they rotate the wing for the engines. You want to go up or straight. Those wings fold in such a manner that it's one streamlined body. The requirement was it couldn't take more space than a CH-46 in a hangar deck. So there are a tremendous number of gears and whatnot to fold those wings in so that they can actually do that.
Right.
And for that reason, it's a very complicated aircraft.
Yeah. Well, that's
in addition to the fact that it rotates.
Yeah.
For vertical or level flight.
That's one of the reasons that they had such a hard time with it for the Marine Corps was because of that. Because the Air Force had the same one, but they didn't have the folding wings, and theirs wasn't near as problematic. But ours, I let's see, it was in '99. There were several guys I went to boot camp with that one of the first Osprey crashes, they were on that. I think there were 3 guys from my boot camp that ended up dying after when that one happened. Yeah.
It was the Marine Corps is the reason for existing is amphibious assault. The Marines know that going over the beach with landing craft or the AAV, that's what they call it, is a dicey proposition. So they've been embracing vertical development with the CH-46 and now the Osprey for a long time.
Yeah.
The range of weapons has increased such that coming close to the shore is probably not a good idea. So their concept of an Osprey that can take off the helicopter carrier and then go level flight and go hundreds of miles in, drop,
Right.
is an appropriate look at amphibious doctrine, in my opinion. Try to give us the edge there. So, in general, I don't think the Marines need very much specialized. But if the Army has the best rifle, the Marines. We had the best body armor, Marines. We got the best artillery, Marines. But the Marines need to bring to the table the landing craft, whatever you want to call it, but landing craft. Right? They got to bring the amphibious capability.
Right.
It's a joint manual between the Army and the Marine Corps, but the Army doesn't give it tons of attention. So the facts of the matter are, the Army has done more amphibious landing than the Marine Corps has done.
Oh, yeah.
If you look at World War II, once you get past the use of the 1st Marine Division in the Southwest Pacific, every other landing through Guinea and through the Philippines, the islands in the Philippines, was done by the Army. And the Army comes with a bunch of landings in Central Pacific. And the Army was there on Okinawa and Tonga. But the Army, and of course in Europe, almost all the landings in Europe. So there's a tremendous amount of experience built up and incorporated amphibious doctrine by the Army. And the first amphibious assault was done by George Washington across the Delaware.
That's right. That's right.
And he had used the Marblehead Regiment from Massachusetts to do it because they rode a boat.
Yeah.
But that's the first amphibious history. George crossing the Delaware. The Marines are joining them lately. They came along and started studying amphibious warfare.
Yeah.
But they're the keepers of the knowledge right now, so nobody in the Army can say.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, in my opinion, that's one thing the Marine Corps has to hold on to be relevant. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the floats that they do with the MEUs, they do provide this thing to be used. I'm sure they're supposed to embassy evacuation being specialty in the Marine Corps. And also the State Department, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. True.
Instead of using diplomacy so they can solve the problem, instead they can call it Marines for evacuation. So the Marines are just, I used to tell that to Jan. Yeah, no, I understand. Then
If you're a veteran and you're struggling, you need some help, don't forget that the VA does have some incredible resources. You can always dial 988, press option 1. You can also text 838-255, or you can go to veteranscrisisline.net, click on that chat icon. Any of those options are going to be able to put you in contact with somebody that can help you out. But remember, one veteran life lost is one too many. I care about you. The veteran community cares about you. So please reach out for help. And if you're a veteran out there and you're not struggling and you're doing well, don't forget about your fellow veterans that you served with. Reach out to them, ask them how they're doing. And if they need a helping hand, go ahead and help them out as well. With that, I hope you enjoyed the show. Stay motivated. Change your socks.